This video is about the 5 steps on finding an immigration agent. As you might have heard in previous videos, I used international dating. I met a foreign woman in China. We have had a relationship and we went a long way down the path, and then we decided that we wanted to take it further. So we had to employ an immigration agent. So the first point I want to make is selecting an immigration agent suitable for both of you. Now, my partner was Chinese. I'm here in Australia. So the decision you have to make is, do you go for somebody local here in Adelaide, or do you go for an immigration agent in your partner's country, which would have been China? In the end, we decided to do it in Adelaide, get a local person here. So the process was that I went around, I looked for about 4 or 5 different companies and spoke to different agents, and I got a cross-section of what their services were, what the prices were, the convenience of their location, etc. The other question I had to ask myself was whether I get an English-speaking agent who can only just speak English, or do I go for an agent who can also speak Chinese and has an idea on the Chinese culture that would be more suitable for my partner. So I went around, interviewed 4 or 5 different agents. In the end, I decided to go for a Chinese lady who was an immigration agent here in Adelaide. And I thought that would be best for my partner because she could make contact with her and obviously be able to speak Chinese to her and probably make her feel more comfortable. For me personally, the agent here in Adelaide was convenient to me, so if I needed to talk to her or visit her or whatever, then that was also convenient. So that's the path we went down. Now, it also got to pricing, of course, and we went around and we checked the prices, and they varied quite substantially. That is the second point, the price of an immigration agent. Now, you either go to do it yourself, do all the paperwork through the Department of Home Affairs. If you choose to go for the fiancé visa, which is a subclass 300 visa, then you can go about it yourself and collate all the information they need and all the proof of the relationship. The costings roughly around $13,000 it cost. That includes the government fees plus the agent fees. It was approximately $13,000. So that's the path we went down. I thought about doing it myself, but after we spoke to agents and we found out the amount of work involved, the paperwork involved, and the amount of proof of relationship that the Department of Foreign or Home Affairs in Australia demands to make it a successful visa application, I looked at the possible workload and I thought it would be too much. It'd be simply too much for me because I'm here by myself. I'm not completely great with technology, so I decided we'd rather employ an immigration agent. The third point is the time taken for processing. Well, my personal case is that with my Chinese partner, we had been in dating. We'd been seeing each other through 2019 and we went into 2020, and then COVID hit. COVID stopped it, stopped me from being able to visit China to see her. So that was a real problem for 2.5 years before China opened their borders and Australia opened their borders. So it was about in the middle of 2021 that we'd known each other for about 2.5 years, roughly, that we decided to employ an immigration agent. So that was the time period that we took. Now I can tell you the processing times vary greatly for the subclass 300. Initially we were told about 18 months that it would take by different multiple agents. Some said 9 months, some said 12 months, others said 18. And then I thought, well, who's telling the truth here? What's the real story? And eventually I settled on, as I said to you before, a Chinese agent here in Adelaide. And she said at the time about 18 months. So we continued on there. We did all the paperwork we needed. We got the proof of relationship, all the emails that we had to collect to send to her, all the WeChat documentation, all the photos of meeting, the plane tickets to visit each other, all the documented proof you need to show that it's a genuine relationship. So we did that, and then I suddenly realised that the COVID, as much as I thought that COVID coming would make the process quicker, because there was obviously nobody coming to Australia at the time, so relationships weren't being formed. People couldn't visit, people couldn't travel out of Australia, people couldn't travel in. So I thought that, okay, this will lighten the load and maybe our subclass 300 visa will be processed quicker. Well, that didn't work out that way. As I said, we put the application in on May, I think, 2021, and it took 20 months. 20 months before it was approved by the Department of Home Affairs. And when you look back on it, that was actually reasonably quick, because when you went to their website around the same time, they're quoting now sometimes 35 months for a visa approval. So in some ways it was very frustrating. It took us a long time. We got terribly frustrated with it. We thought that the fact of the matter, we couldn't visit each other as well. I couldn't go to China, she couldn't come here. That made it doubly difficult. So eventually COVID finished and I was able to travel to China and see her, and we just kept on. We gave them all the information we needed, and as I said, it was no good trying to pressure the government. You couldn't talk to them. They don't take phone calls, and you just have to sit and wait and be patient. The convenience factor, point 4, the convenience for both parties, that's me and my partner. In retrospect, Jessie could have appointed an immigration agent in China who could have handled it from that side, because she was the person out of the both of us who had to give most of the identification. Most of the proof of relationship goes on to the person who wants to move to this country. So she had to do most of the work. So in retrospect, it possibly might have been better for us to have used an agent in China. But we didn't go down that path, and well, it took us 20 months. So point 5, the type of visa that we used, well, I'm in Australia, she's in China. We went for the subclass 300 visa, fiancé visa it's called. There's a multitude of different visas, but that's the one that our immigration agent here in Adelaide recommended to us. And to this stage, once she got her visa approved, her son had to come out as well on the same visa. And once that was approved, then she had the opportunity to go to her place of employment and had to obviously give her resignation and obviously tie up loose ends in China, selling things, bits and pieces. And that took another 5 or 6 weeks. So it's a long process. If you look back on my position, my personal, took me 2.5 years. Then I applied for the subclass 300 visa, 20 months for that waiting, then another 5-6 weeks for her to tidy up her things before she could come to Australia. So that's my story. That's my experience with dealing with the Department of Home Affairs, dealing with an immigration agent. It's, as I said before, it's a long process. You can't cut corners. It can be expensive, but if you're strong and you're patient and you've got an end goal, then that's what you've got to do. So there it is. Thank you for listening, and talk to you next time.